So I'm very passionate about this issue, to me, because it's so fundamental. It's about discrimination. As plain as that may seem, at the end of the day, that's all this issue is about. And you know what? Sky's not going to fall in, folks. Those of you that still can't believe that this activist, conservative California Supreme Court with 6 out of the 7 justices appointed by Republican governors, the sky is not going to fall in. The world will not come to an end in the state of California because of what that Supreme Court did 2 days ago. Gay marriage will not destroy the institution of marriage any more than it's destroyed the institution of marriage in the state of Massachusetts. And yes, let us not forget, gay people are getting married there every single day. Boston Red Sox won the World Series nonetheless. It's fine. And now maybe we can just start working on things that matter even more, like healthcare and education and the environment. Well, the principle here is you've got to have a foundation. Unless you have a foundation of equality, you can't build off that. And when we're running the 90-yard dash, and we're arguing, especially folks, Democrats in this room, that separate now is somehow equal. When we all stood there, I'm sure every single one of you taught and reminded every one of these students when they started in 2004, 2005, it's the 50th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, overturning that 1896 decision, Plessy versus Ferguson, and how right that was. Every Democrat in this country that was in office gave speeches on the topic. Separate is not equal, they said. But all of a sudden, when asked their position on gay marriage, well, now wait a second. It's different. What about civil unions, they said. What are they saying today? Run the 90-yard dash when it comes to the gay and lesbian community, but the 100-yard dash when it comes to women's rights, human rights, and it comes to civil rights. I don't get that. It is a separate institution inherently. Don't take my word for that. Read the Supreme Court decision in California. Read it in Massachusetts. Read it in some of these other states that have adjudicated accordingly. I don't know many married couples in this room that oppose same-sex marriage that are out there giving back their marriage licenses and saying, well, let me get one of those civil unions. I certainly wasn't aware of Jenna Bush's desire to be more like her father, who supports only civil unions, and say, I look forward to my civil union. She looked forward to her marriage. There's a symbolism. There's an acceptance. There's a pride that comes from marriage. There's something inherent in marriage that does not exist in a separate institution, as much as people will say, oh, well, you get all those rights. It's not the same. Separate is not equal. So I say all this because I want to impress upon you the law. And I want to impress upon you your namesake, Dr. King, yet again, who said the long arch of history always bends towards justice. We eventually get this right. It takes time. Again, the law enforces discrimination. It's institutionalized in the courts. It's practiced as tradition. And when people try to change it, a lot of folks get upset. That's why Dr. King was in jail when he wrote the Birmingham letter. And everyone told him, oh, no, this is too fast, too soon, why are you pushing this? And those were African-American preachers that were telling him that. Just like as members of my own party, the Democrats, saying, oh my gosh, it's an election year. I said, well, what happens next year? It's an election year again. And what happens this year? It's an election. What happens again? It's an election year. Wait almost always means never, he said. And he was right. He also said we're all bound together by a web of mutuality. Think about that. He stole that right from the Bible. Many parts but one body. And when one part suffers, we all suffer. And I'll tell you, there are tens of millions of people, no different than any of us in this room. But for the quirk of fate, they've grown up to love someone of the same sex. And they're your friends and your family members. They're your brothers and sisters, your aunts and uncles, your grandparents. And you know what? I think their life was affirmed a few days ago. I think their lives were affirmed. And I think their family members' lives were affirmed.